Ah, what a lovely day. Marvelous Mondays back in effect. Your boy, Chocolate Knox, in the studio. I've been gone for a very long time, and none of you have missed me, and it almost hurts my feelings. You know, it almost is like you kind of got a glimpse of what happens when you die. You just get forgotten. Nobody remembers you anymore. And this is like more reason to make sure everything that you do in life, only what you do for Christ is going to last, because it didn't take long, 2 weeks, and y'all forgot about me so quickly. And I'm not mad at you. I forget about me sometimes too. I was out in Arizona doing some treatments with my son for his concussions, and I was out there for like 2 weeks. And that's all it took. I started doing this thing every day, and just in 2 weeks, I was forgotten that quickly. So let me give you a reminder of what Marvelous Mondays are all about. Marvelous Mondays is about the undoing of the wicked. You know, the way that God's world is designed to run, bad guys think that they're the ones who are actually getting the upper hand. They feel like they have to be deceitful in order to get ahead. And they intend on trampling over. Oh, David Reese is here. Well, hello, Mr. Reese. I was just hanging out with that guy. They think that the way to get ahead is to stomp out the light. You got to push people aside. And so the wicked, when they do things, they're actually working toward God's ends of being of destroying their type of way that the world works, and ushering in the meek and the humble and the righteous into places of authority and victory. And so as the wicked becomes more consistent with themselves, they fall apart. And it's been that way ever since the promise of the gospel. And it really, 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 really took hold at the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And so every day, particularly on Mondays, because people really don't like Mondays. It's like the worst day of the week for most people, but it should be one of the best days of the week, because we just got done hearing about the triumphant victory of Christ yesterday. And so it's the first day that we get to go into the week talking about, wow, another wonderful day that the wicked loses again and takes another L. Marvelous day, y'all. And so I love taking in Mondays, the days that people think, oh, this is such a horrible day, I got to go to work. No. You get to go to work and serve the Lord with what you're doing. And in doing so, you are working towards the end of blessing people in the kingdom, growing the kingdom, advancing the kingdom through the gospel applied. And so we get to take joy in Mondays because they're all marvelous to see the wicked get crushed. And there's only two ways the wicked gets crushed. Either God's going to crush you in judgment, in giving you judgment now, or he puts that burden on his son and he is crushed and he is bruised and he takes your judgment and he gives you righteousness. So, man, it's always a wonderful, wonderful time to celebrate the gospel of Jesus Christ, particularly on Mondays. Excuse me while I take a lovely sip from my sponsor, this mug that they've given me. Let me see. Oh, this is good. I don't know if I've told you or not about newharttreasures.com. Yeah, see, this is my sponsor. They give me really cool mugs. Now, I talk a lot about our coffee, but let me tell you something. When this coffee is in this mug, the feel of the mug is different. The taste of the coffee. I don't know if there's something magical Hannah is doing over at newharttreasures.com, but she has these lovely design mugs. I think it's such a unique shape. It feels great in my hand. I love holding it, but I also love drinking from it, and I feel better every time I do. There's something else. Since David Reese is on the line here, I want to talk about what he talks about. And he talks about having Bible verses hung up in your house. You should have the word of God put in your house, on the walls, around, so your eyelids could see them, keeping the word of God freshly in front of you. You're kind of commanded to do that. Do you know that newharttreasures.com, Hannah over there, actually has, I went looking for Bible verses on that was artistically done and not just like spray painted and it looked ugly, but something that was artistically done to beautify the home. And it's hard to find, let me say it like this, it's hard to find good Bible verses in context and just good content put beautifully on some sort of tapestry to hang up. It's so hard. And so you can go to New Heart Treasures. She has some smaller items. And here's the thing about Hannah. If you go over there, she will make things for you. You can contact her on that little reach out, contact us, little info thing. And you can say, Hannah, I would like something this size, this wide, with this Bible verse on it. I want it to look beautiful. I'm sure she will work with you to develop that. And not only that, if you can't buy anything, but you just want to support her, you can actually get prayer from her. She and her family will pray for you. Just going over to the notes section or into the comment section about us, contact us, fill that out, and get somebody to pray for you. So that's just a lovely thing that Hannah does. So go support Hannah and newhearttreasures.com. I really appreciate them. And so, excuse me, I gotta take another sip from this mug. You could slurp like this too if you had this mug. It's so good. So today, couple things. Knox Unleash has not been going the last 2 weeks, and I haven't forgotten about it. I just haven't been able to do it. But I wanted to give you guys a little bit of an update about what's going to happen with Knox Unleashed. I'm not going to be doing it every day. I know God has been good, so I have projects to finish. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to maintain Knox Unleashed for at least 2 days a week, Mondays and Fridays. I really, really love the two guys that I talk to consistently, even off air. One of them is Jason Farley, who I have with me right now. We're going to talk to him about a class that he's doing on the university, the Pub University. We're going to talk about that in just a second. But also Bishop David Reese, who's actually on Spaces right now. I've loved the conversation I've been having with these two gentlemen. And even though my schedule has become too busy to be able to do this daily, I'm going to do a lot more production, post-production editing for the app, get more content out for you guys. And then I'm going to be continuing the conversation basically on civic covenanting, kind of the whole Christian nationalism dialogue that's been happening. There's a lot of layers that people are not talking about as it relates to the idea of civic covenanting. And it's been lovely working through these offices, working through the covenant family structure and how it bleeds into the civil structure, and how right worship, right doctrine, and then right discipline has an order that works its way right into the civil. And it's just the conversation I think we should be having around Christian nationalism. And so I'm going to maintain those two conversations. It's kind of going to be more like Knox Unplug and then Knox Unleash on Fridays. And then every now and then I might feel the spirit and want to do something on Wednesdays. Who knows? But I'm not completely going away. Just going to adjust the schedule so I can get more content out on the app, and just really focusing on just those two gentlemen. I think they have a lot to bring to the table. One of my friends who's with me now to talk about what he's doing. Now, he doesn't know I'm going to do this. Jason, are you there? There you go. You here with me?
I'm here.
Okay. Now, I didn't tell you I was going to do this, but on Mondays, what you have to do is you got to talk about at least one of the things where the wicked are planning for something for evil. The guy ends up using it for good and flips it on them. That's what Marvelous Mondays are all about. What is it that you would point to this particular day and say, oh yeah, they didn't see this one coming, but this is how God is using this to flip it on the enemy, and they get in play. Kind of like, Marvelous Mondays will almost be like the resurrection. Like they didn't see that one coming, but God used it.
Just a story that I've seen recently.
A story or an issue or something that's currently happening where it's like, oh yeah, this is going to work out for good. Even if it's not completely worked out, this is going to work out for good, and people don't know it yet.
Here's something that that still makes me smile every Sunday. So, do you remember back when the governor of Washington said because of COVID, you can't sing anymore in church?
Yeah.
It was a while ago.
Yeah.
Well, at the time, my pastor stood up and said, the governor of Washington, our governor has told us we're not allowed to sing because of COVID, but Jesus didn't give us permission to not sing. So I want you guys to sing extra loud. And since then, my church belts every hymn so much louder than before, because of that one moment. And there's nothing like the loud praises of the saints to make the devil and all of his minions take a step back and say, "Uh-oh."
Um, you know what? I'm wondering. It's funny because I was thinking about this. My kids were talking in the car and they were saying to themselves, how old were you when COVID happened? Now, my oldest is 16, right?
Okay.
And they were going through this, and it was funny because we're hitting that point where it's about to be 4 years.
It's
Right?
crazy that that's that long ago, but it's less crazy that that my that my church still sings loud because of that.
Right.
They're yeah.
And I'm thinking, and I've said this before, I'm thinking we need another moment like this. And here's what's crazy. It hurts. It hurts because nobody wanted to go through that. Nobody wanted to. But here's what I think. I think we need to go through COVID again because I'm watching some of the conversations that are happening online, and all of them are pointed the wrong. At least it feels like to me. It feels like they're pointed the wrong direction, right? And some of the things that's come out of since COVID, we've had now people convinced that we need a parallel economy, Christian economy, not just any kind of economy. We have now, since 2020, people convinced that we need a parallel Christian economy that acknowledges Christ as Lord, freedom is essential, the sphere sovereignty enacted, people making commitments for their employees that they will work to keep them employed during these times and so on and so forth. We're not going to shut down. And I'm like, yes, praise God. Like there was a lot of great things that came out of COVID and that have become now just another political thing instead of like, no, this is a human Christian thing.
Yeah.
And I don't want people to get lost thinking about, oh, this is a political position more than like, no, this is a Christ as Lord situation. This is important because God is the one who has given us the rights that our government is supposed to be acknowledging. And when they don't acknowledge those rights, they need to repent in the same way any other sinner who steals, who lies, who cheated, right? Like they need to repent. And a lot of people didn't come to that realization, at least in a practical way, until COVID. And so I'm like watching everybody kind of like turn back in with their guns and fight each other or fight good guys or people who are on the same team. Or I'm like, we need COVID 2.0 because we got to. Yeah. I thought that what COVID would have done would have brought a larger coalition of reformed evangelicals together to say, you know what? All the stuff that you theonomists have been talking about for years was right. Right. All the stuff you guys have been talking about for years was right. And we missed it. And you know what? Let's team up together, create a more perfect coalition of evangelicals, right? It's funny. We were able to get a statement out on social justice and the gospel, and the social justice movement never shut us down. Right? Like, just think about that for a second. We were able to get a statement out on, all sorts of different things around theological issues, and none of them have had the effect on us economically, like the federal government, and theologically. I mean, the federal government has involved itself into our forms of worship and telling us that we can't enjoy the Lord's table and sing to the Lord. They've ripped apart the church. And we haven't even been able to put together a statement as a church to say, yeah, we're not going to do it ever again. Right? Like, it's just all of us reform folks get together. Instead, what it seemed to happen is everybody jockeyed for, no, we always stood, or we stood before them, or everybody's jockeying for the position of power so they can win the evangelical base instead of figuring like, guys, maybe we come together and form some sort of allegiance with each other about civil things that our Bible says, which is really why the important, the conversation with Mr. I always want to call him Doctor, but David Reese has been so important on Fridays, which is why I'm really excited to talk about what you're doing on the Pub University. So,
well, I think one of the reasons that we end up fighting with each other is because we have our definitions of who we are as Christians are always nihilistic. They're over against what we're not. We're not them, we're not them, we're not them. And because of that, we end up with a negative definition, and we don't know how, and without a positive definition that says we are the people who follow Jesus, who gather on Sundays, who rest once a week, who come to the Lord's Supper, who baptize, who share the gospel. We're the people that are gathered to Jesus, not, as our primary definition, rather than the people who are gathered away from them or them or them. Because of that, we don't know how to unify. We only know how to separate. And unless we separate into the same small enclave, we find ourselves unable to know what to do with the questions of who is us and who is them, right? Because we have, by most of our definitions of ourselves are nihilistic, and that's why I think that the singing loud stuck, because it's a positive thing to do. As soon as you experience a congregation that sings wholeheartedly all of the time, nobody wants to go back to what it was before. And so it's the argument from the beauty of even mediocre hymns sung with the whole heart is intoxicating.
I want to talk about Pub University and what it is and why we're doing it. So we created Pub University because
we need a place where people that have realized they didn't get the education that they ought to have gotten, that they can go back and get it, and for the sake of their own humanity and the humanity of their offspring, right? When they realize the great conversation of humanity has been going on inside and outside the church for 2,000 years, and they haven't been a part of it because nobody told them about it. We need a place that says, well, come over here and let's learn what it is to be human again together. So that's what it is to be a free people. The liberal arts it's the education that a free man gets. And that's why Christians have been at the heart of giving a liberal education, a liberal arts education, for the last 1,600 years, 1,700 years, really. And we want to do that again. And so rather than wait around for somebody else to do it, we're going to not despise the day of small beginnings and jump in with Pub University and work on that, the availability of a liberal arts education again.
One of the things that I was learning since we were doing Knox Unplugged was the fact that the 5-foot bookshelf from Harvard, was it? The Harvard Classics?
Yep.
The 5-foot bookshelf. And one of the things that they did was that they knew that at the time, society, the men had to go and become breadwinners. And they knew that they didn't have the time to give after working their 8-hour day, 12-hour day, whatever, how long they were working in the fields. They didn't have the time to go to a university and to a college. And so was it Charles Eliot, I believe, was it the president at the time?
Yeah.
Came up with the 5-foot bookshelf and said, it keeps doing the dub, it loves the thumb. If you had this 5-foot bookshelf over the next 10 years, you would be able to have a liberal arts education, right? You would, because it was important that they would remain free. They had these blessings and these freedoms that had been handed down from generation to generation, and they wanted to make sure that the people coming afterwards would be able to understand and defend why they did what they did, where they get their liberty from, what, like you said, the conversation that they were in. And since we've been having this, I've been seeing how inept I have been in knowing the conversation that I've been breaking the 5th commandment in one sense or another, where I haven't honored the people who have come before me, right? And sought to understand the things that they've understood. And so, and they've worked really hard to make sure that I've gotten them. They put them in books. I mean, I don't think I'll ever write a book in my lifetime. I'm not that guy. I just can't put it together. But I want to make sure that if my forefathers have said, you need this to maintain the things that we worked for to give to you, I need to spend my time getting this. And so, but they've done a great job to make it easy. And so we're trying to put together our version of the Harvard 5-foot bookshelf, liberal arts education. And the way that you decided, and you're the president dean of the university.
Yeah.
Have we settled the title yet?
I don't think we've settled on a title, director or something like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just saw Bill Maher in a debate trying to explain all the things that he said, all the things that liberals brought to the world, and he started listing off the benefits of freedom and liberty and the liberal arts education, and I was thinking that the word liberal has changed such that is no longer, you're no longer telling the truth, um, and whether he's trying to lie or not, you're not telling the truth to say, here, liberals brought us things like the jury system is one of the things he listed. Right, the reality is the jury system is well, we put liberty, we put liberalism and conservatism over against one another, and we end up turning it into a rivalry rather than saying what we are, the people that are fighting for liberty, and there's liberty at all of the different at all of the different jurisdictions that we want, right? The personal jurisdiction where we have control of ourselves, and so we can live with liberty, liberty within our families, liberty within the church, liberty within the civic realm. Each of those liberties is a different definition. What it looks to be free as an individual has to do with virtue and self-control, and we're free from the shackles of sin, free from the shackles of inordinate desires, free from the shackles of all of the things that bind us up as individuals, all the way up to a civic freedom that says here are the limitations that should be put on the government because of experience, because of the nature of what the government is, what God has said the government is for, all of those things, all of the liberties at all of the different levels and jurisdictions. We've had long multi-generational conversations about what that means, how to restore it when we've lost it, how to gain it where it isn't, how to protect it once we have it. We know as people, we know those things, but we've forgotten them because we haven't. Even though I've walked into a Goodwill before and seen every book necessary to get a liberal arts education on the shelf, and thought, but here it is at Goodwill. It's $1.25 each. There's $40, $50 maybe to get a liberal arts education from this Goodwill, but nobody knows it's there. Right? Nobody knows that freedom is on those shelves, and so we walk out with another. We walk out with another set of cowboy boots and old Air Ones instead of the freedom that's there on the shelf.
So even though we're talking a lot about the political realm right now, or at least that's where everybody seems to go about when we talk about education and freedom, but you just broke all of it down to self-government, family government, church government, civil government, right? And so liberal and all those things. And one of the things I really appreciate, again, that's why you and Reese, I'm sticking to, I don't want to cancel those out, but it's the way that Reese even talks about this liberty is the idea, is the freedom to do what's good. And that's what you were talking about with the virtue. Like people have used liberty as ability to do whatever I want, but that's not actually liberty, right? But the place where we want to talk about, particularly in the Pub University, where people can, what's the website people can go to?
It is flfnetwork.com/university.
flfnetwork.com/university. It's December 5th, correct? December 5th is when we have two classes.
The first two classes kick off December 5th. Yeah, it's December 5th. The first two classes kick off, and the first two classes are Apologetics 1. It's the basics of what it is to the basics of an outward and inward defense of the faith. The 8 apologetic, I call them the apologetic habits of thought. I've heard them also called the foundations of a worldview. They're all different things. It's apologetic course that says, what is it that we are defending when we say we're defending the gospel? What does a defense look like? And so that one kicks off on Monday, and then it's the next 8 Mondays, and then the other one is the Mission of God for the Family.
Okay, that's the one
And
I was
so-
like, that's the one I really was talking about, and I got the timing mixed up. So December 5th is the apologetics course.
is apologetic. So then December 6th, Tuesday nights is going to be the Mission of God for the Family.
Okay, so you're doing well. You're one Monday, one Tuesday.
One Monday, one Tuesday. Yeah, just diving in. And they're going to be recorded, so if you sign up, you can be there live. But if there's one that you miss, there's a recording that you'll get. And the Mission of God for the Family. So what I want to do is go through each of the jurisdictions and talk about what God created them for, what they are, and what God created them for. And so the first one we're doing is the Mission of God for the Family. What is the family? And when God established the family in the Garden of Eden, what did he establish the family to accomplish? So rather than always being on the defensive with our family, we can get our families on the offensive, get them out accomplishing the mission that God has for families.
Okay, so I have a rule. If you're going to talk on this show, you have to have proved that you have shared it somehow. So right now we are live on Facebook, Cross Politics Facebook. We are live on YouTube. We are live on X, both my personal X and Cross Politics X, and we are in Spaces. And so if somebody shares the show, they get to talk. If you don't share the show, you just keep listening. Don't try and access the conversation. But Elle has shared the show, so she gets to ask a question or make a comment. Elle, you have the floor in 15 seconds.
I wanted to know if the university courses are good for non-Americans.
They're good for all humans. They are going to be in English because that's the only language that I speak hyper fluently. My Spanish is really not very good, and my Latin is even worse. So they're going to be in English, but you can sign up from anywhere that you'll be able to get even from, let's say, Canada. If you are, for example, from Canada, you will be able to sign up for it.
All the information that, and let me just clarify this, Jason. So you said apologetics is going to be covered, and then Mission of God for the Family. So those are two separate topics, and both of those are covered over the course of how many classes?
8 weeks is what we're doing. So there's 8 classes for each one, and that's the goal. So we've got some other classes coming up. Storytelling using storytelling to gain wisdom, or using stories to gain wisdom, and we'll do that with fairy tales first, and then we have a number of other teachers beginning to line up. And it's all the theme of all of the classes is going to be around what does it mean to live well in the world that God made, right? So what does the good life look like, and how does knowing what it is to be human, and what kind of creature God made us, what he made us for, how does that work its way out into all different areas of life?
That's good. So Jason, give me an example. I really want to focus in on the family one a little bit. And I know there's so much more to deal with the politics, but here's why I want to focus on the family one, because the way that I'm looking at things from this perspective, it seems to me that everybody is willing to talk about the importance of the family in one sense or another, and yet really is not working hard to define or disciple or work through the details of what they mean by that. It's almost like a throwaway political line to say, we got to get strong families, because it's like looking at a vehicle and saying, man, without tires, this car don't ride. Right.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. But where do you get tires? How do you install the tires? How do you take off the old tires that how do you put these things on? What are tires made of? There's a whole observing the fact that a car without tires doesn't run doesn't help anyone who needs to find tires, who already knows that, right? And so it's become a talking point, but I've realized that nobody really is working through the details and the structures for people who are not, we are not in normal land anymore. We're not in normal territory anymore. Nothing is normal. The obvious thing isn't obvious for people. And you have an older generation that remembers closer to a semi-normal. So they have the residue of that on them. But the generation underneath us that are in their 20s and in their 30s, they have no concept of normal. And the ones in their 40s, like, I think I heard about it somewhere, what normal was. What does that look like?
Right. I vaguely remember my grandparents raising my parents with some sense of normality, but that was maybe the last I heard of it or heard about it. Yeah. So, so the overarching metaphor system that God gives for understanding the family, he gives right in the beginning in the Garden of Eden. Right. He establishes he establishes the Garden of Eden. And then he gives in the he establishes the land of Eden, and then in one area on the eastern end of the land of Eden, he puts a garden, and then outside the land of Eden, you've got the wilds. You've got the wild areas, and from the beginning, that was how the world was arranged. That you had a land. In that land was a garden, and outside that land was the wilds. And those three spheres, the Garden of Eden, the land of Eden, and the wilds, really end up defining what it is that God gives to each family to take care of. So they're supposed to establish a home where that is like a garden, and the home as a garden metaphor is literally from beginning to end in the Bible, right? The garden, the home as a garden, the marriage as a garden, all of those, the children being raised in the vicinity of the garden marriage. That metaphor is used all throughout the Bible. And then the land is the place where there are resources that are gathered and brought home to the garden, and then the land is transformed by the family over time into a garden, more of a garden space. Even so, you've got the home that's a garden, and the land that's becoming a garden through resource gathering and resource rearrangement through dominion. Is the Bible word, where the dominion is the transformation of an area into what it's intended to be. And so the transformation of the land through the gathering of the resources and the rearrangement of the resources is the gardening of the land, so that the home that is a garden pushes its way out into the land. And then the children are raised with the goal of going out into the wilds and transforming the wilds into a land, in that land planting a garden, and then transforming their garden home into a place that then pushes out into the land, and then they raise children that push out into a new section of the wilds. So that is an overview summary of the metaphor system, I guess you'd say, that God gives us for the mission of God for the family. And then each person within the family is assigned a primary sphere, right? So the wife is given the home at where she is the what Paul calls the house despot, or the ruler of the home, where she is the one who's in charge of transforming and gardening that area, and the husband is given the role of the land, and remember, the garden is a part of the land. He's given responsibility over all of the land, but he's given a job that he can't accomplish on his own, which is to be fruitful and multiply and transform the garden. But he doesn't actually have what he needs, and so God brings him Eve, and then they together are on that mission together. The word submission means taking on someone else's mission as your own, coming under the mission of another. So Eve is wooed under the mission of Adam in when it's working well. It doesn't always work work right. But when it's working well, Eve is wooed under the mission of Adam, and then his land that he's supposed to be transforming, he establishes a garden for her to garden, so he can watch her garden and learn the wisdom of gardening that she does in the home, and take that and use that wisdom to transform the land, bring home resources for her to transform within the home. And then the children are raised watching the dominion of the land, and being a part of the dominion of the land, and being a part of the transformation of the land into a garden, and being a part of the gardening process within the home, prepared to go out and be conquerors of the wilds in order to then bring that the wilds into a relationship with the garden as well. So that's the overarching mission of God for the family.
I need a drink from my sponsor's mug real quick. Hold on. Jason, this is what I mean by it's that whole idea is underestimated in the success of transforming a nation.
Exactly.
And my fear has been that if people who don't understand that that is the story and the metaphor that we're supposed to be working with in the world, and the people who don't understand that get their hands on the sword or the civil, where everybody has kind of, where it's become this Machiavellian structure where all the power is there, then we are going to make some of the same errors that pagans make as it relates to how this is supposed to flow. And so this is not a small thing to grasp, because when everybody's like, well, where's the power at? Well, it's not all in one place, right? It's not all in one place. And this is why I think, because once you get everything you just defined properly, the things that qualifies a man for whether he's going to be in the ecclesiastical offices or in the civil offices is how he functions as the officer of as a husband, and the role of a husband as a father, as a prophet, priest, and king there. And so if a guy doesn't know how to do those things in the home, his qualifications, we were kind of talking a little bit about this today on Cross Politics, but the qualification in these other areas, we don't know if he's qualified to even be there. Right. And so like, I've gone, and this is one of the things I've really appreciated about being in Moscow, is that I've gone over so many times, you know, what I want to do for the Lord, what I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this, I want to build this. There's nothing wrong with that. But then when I started looking, it's like, do I have the family foundation that I need in order to be able to build something great for the Lord? And a lot of times, and when you have such a broken family, you really have to ask that question, because I mean, me and my wife, was it me and my wife, or maybe you and I were talking about this, but I think we were talking about this on Knox Unplugged, which if you're going to have wisdom as a king, you're going to need to learn how to deal with your children and exercise wisdom and justice in those situations. And if you haven't learned to split a baby with your own kids, right? Like, she stole my doll. It's my doll. You're like, okay, here we go. It seems like these are trifle things, but you got to learn how to split the baby doll.
Right.
Before you can learn how to split the baby in the civil realm. Right. And we won't take the structures that God gives us, the challenges God gives us in the challenge of raising and discipling a family. We don't take those as real work and real glory and real wisdom developed. We don't take those as those things, because in our society, you don't have to have any of that in order to be able to win an election. You don't have to have any of that to start your own church. People just start their own churches out, just contemporaneously. Like, I think I'll start a church and become a pastor. Nobody needs to be qualified through the work that they've put in on the family in order to be in some of these offices. And so I'm like, we have to go back to the very, very basics. And one of the things, and this is my question, I guess, as I'm getting to here, is, the challenge that I'm having to do, we chew gum and walk at the same time because we have to. Like, we can't not engage in the civil side of things. We have to. It's responsible to love our neighbors. We have to love our neighbors. Some of us are not very skilled at it, but we have to do it. So
Right.
how do we do both of those things at the same time?
Well, if you look at Adam in the garden, he was told to guard the garden and to garden the garden, right? To make it fruitful. And when the devil comes to attack, he doesn't start with the Garden of Eden. He starts with the Garden of Eve. The first place that Adam failed to protect the garden was he failed to protect the Garden of Eve. Because it tells us in Genesis 3 that he was right there with Eve while the devil was talking to her, while the serpent was talking to her. So he
right now.
So I think so. You hear people say, "Well, the family's important," but what we don't do is spend some time getting the roles of marriage right. Right? We spend our time in defense about the roles of marriage, but we don't spend our time actually saying, "But what does the Bible teach?" Right? What does it actually look like? What's the difference between masculine glory and feminine glory? What's the difference? And what does it mean that men that men are to be glory givers and women are to be glory receivers, or they are glory vessels, all of these things that God talks about what does that look like for a marriage to actually be functioning properly. We can't get there because we are defensive and we're embarrassed and we don't really know what the Bible teaches, and so we end up defending traditional roles or something like that, rather than saying, no, I'm confident that I know exactly what the Bible teaches, and I know what it looks like for my marriage to go on offense and not just to be on defense, and then to raise kids that are dangerous. If we don't know what they're for, we don't know how to raise them to be dangerous to the devil and his kingdom, right? We want to raise little devil stompers because that's what Romans 16 says we are, but we don't know how to harden the heels of our children to prepare them for dragon skulls.
Oh, okay. I want you to go through kind of some of the talking points that you're going to work through in the class, because you're actually laying out the case that you say most people aren't laying out. But before you do that, you just really got me. We on Knox Unplugged, which, by the way, everybody needs to listen to, especially this last one. The last few really have been really, 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 really good, because we've been talking about the priestly duties of man, and I don't know a lot of places where you can have this conversation about the priestly duties of Adam and what they look like post resurrection, right? And that's one of the things that I was telling you earlier. You and David have been phenomenal in working through those things. I'm like, where's the work at on this stuff? And it's just not. I don't find a lot of it out there. It's a forgotten reality of the duties of man, the prophet, priest, and king duties of man, and so people don't have the conversation about it. But when you were talking about today on Knox Unplugged, we were talking about the oblation of man, and that is the lifting up, the priestly duties of man as it relates to other people, right? So it's one thing to have a priestly duty towards eggs or materials, like you were talking about dominion. Dominion is a priestly duty, right? It's taking the materials and making something out of them that didn't exist before, and then lifting it up to the Lord and say, Lord, look what I've done. I'm acting like you, Lord, right?
Right.
I'm creating, right? And so that's the duty that man has. But when it comes to people, how does he oblate people? And particularly in marriage, how does a husband generate the kind of glory that he can give to his wife? What does that look like? Because in order to generate glory, you have to be doing a priestly work, right? How do you generate glory, and then what does it look like to give to your wife, and then what does she do with it?
Yeah, I mean, I think of this as and this is a phrase that I got from Chesterton, but he calls it the fierceness of domesticity. right? And he talks about how wild dogs always run away, right? Wild dogs make terrible guard dogs, but a domesticated dog is what you want as a guard dog, because they fight fierce for their family. They fight fiercely. And he says the fierceness of domesticity. He says a watchdog fights, but a wild dog often runs away. And
did you have that quote sitting right there? Is that in front of you, or did you just pull off the top of your head?
It's from a book. It's from a book collected quotes from Chesterton. It was where I got it. And I'm trying to remember the name of the book.
It's not in front of you right now, so you're just pulling off.
No,
I thought you were
reading. But it's one that I've quoted often enough and written in often enough that you just pick it up. There's more to the quote. I can't remember the last part.
The reason
because then he goes into like how a husband is often compared to that a wild husband is a bad thing, but a domestic husband is much fiercer because he'll protect his home, that sort of thing.
The only reason I was asking is because I don't like you acting like you know my questions ahead of time, and so it seems like you would already prepare for me, and I'm like, I don't like you to be prepared for me. Anyway, I interrupt. Anyway, go ahead.
So, but the home. Now I can't even remember the question. Because what was the question? The home
gather glory.
Oh, right. So the home is a people making place, right? The home is where people are made. So biologically, that's where people are made. Between when the husband and wife are multiplying people, and the wife is growing people. But there's also the formation of these creatures that are born into people, into members of the human race. The home, the sphere of the home, is where that happens, and the way that it happens is watching the husband gather resources, rearrange resources, bring resources home, and watching a wife take those resources and transform them into hospitality, right? So it's the transformation of resources into hospitality that when children are a part of that they become they become the people God is intending them to be, right? Because that is the triune life summarized, right? Is this going and coming, where Jesus comes to earth, and while he's here, he gathers people, and then he comes back to the Lord. And because of his death and resurrection, he doesn't come back to the Father alone, right? In the Old Testament, whenever you're in heaven, whenever we're given a picture of heaven, it's all angels. There aren't people there, right? The people are go to Sheol in the Old Testament. Where they're a shade, where they're a spirit separated from their body, and they're waiting, but they're not in the presence of God, right? If there's angels in the presence of God, but when Jesus returns to the Father, he brings with him all of the people, and what they become, they are received in hospitality by the Father because of the work of the Son on the cross, and the Spirit in resurrecting the Son. They're received in hospitality of the Father, and then they become a choir, right? They become a glory choir. They're gathered around the throne, praising and glorifying the Father, right? The triune work of God is a gathering, hospitality, glorifying pattern, right? Well, that's the same pattern that God sets up between the home and the garden. So this is part of the. I love what David Bahnsen says about I don't go to work just to bring home the bacon.
Yeah,
that's not all it is, but that is an important part of it.
Right.
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 And that's not an inglorious part of it, right? That's not
Yeah.
that's not a part that lacks glory. It does lack glory if your attitude sours the bacon on the way home. But if you bring home the bacon and your wife, makes it into a quiche, and then you can have all the neighbors over, and your kids get to be a part of that whole process. They're there, they're helping with the whole thing. That there is a triune, there is a triune reflection in the family, that is intended to transform young human creatures into adult human creatures, that transforms them into people, right? And that's that is the eternal nature of the triune God working its way out in history, and every family has the opportunity to be that reflection, right? So to C.S. Lewis calls this transposition, where you've got the triune life of God in eternity is like a symphony, right? It's a symphony that's worked out there, that's being played out there. Well, if you take a symphony and you transpose it onto the piano, you can play the same melody, just on a simpler and single instrument. Well, the family is the piano working out the eternal triune life of God. And that, because of the immensity of the eternal glory, it's not something that we can do in a snapshot. It's something that we have to do through generations, because it takes that much to be able to truly reflect the glory of the triune life within a family. So that I think is the fierce domesticity, that Chesterton talks about, right? That you are reflecting the triune life of God as a family over multiple generations, and that's the equivalent of a piano playing, a pianist playing an entire symphony on one piano, and then and then the Spirit takes that and transforms it into an offering before the Lord as well. So that's my summary of the glory of family life.
So the man's duty and responsibility in generating that glory is gathering, particularly.
Gathering. He's gathering resources. He is making sure that his family that his wife has the resources, that his family has the safety, that is the safety, the space, a safe space to be able to reflect that in.
Kingly duty right there, right? So there's a kingly duty in protecting the environment that has been carved out.
Right. And then the prophetic duty of trying to help them understand and explain, and making sure that they make it to church, right? Because a father is not a pastor, right?
Right.
A pastor has a different jurisdiction, a different role, a different relationship to the family than a father has, which is good news. You wouldn't want the father and the pastor to all be wrapped up into the same office.
And that's that way you wouldn't want your king and your father and that's all.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a good idea. It got a good idea, right?
Right. And so so also, making sure that they're making it to church and providing an education, and there's a lot of aspects, and it's a job that's well beyond the abilities of a father. It can only be done by faith, right? Because which is also good news, right? This is the Ecclesiastes aspect of it. God loves to give us jobs that we can't accomplish, right? So that we can depend upon him in the midst of it, and see our plunking on the piano transformed with an angelic choir coming in, and the work of the Spirit coming in and transforming it into something far beyond what we could do.
Sorry, not to trivialize this at all, but I'm going to. Maybe I should say this, to trivialize this whole setup, because one of the things that in a current marketing age, we're talking about, what's the website again?
flfnetwork.com/university.
Okay, so we're talking about the university classes that you have going on. One's on apologetics, one's on family. And one of the things that marketing nowadays for most people, they have to know is, if you're going to sell a weight loss program, what am I going to look like after I get done with your program? What is your program going to do for me in 6 weeks? This is an 8-week program. So, and this seems so trivial, but I think it's valid in one sense because nobody really has a whole lot of time to waste, especially 8 weeks. And you can give an hour and a half or so every day, every Monday, every Tuesday, depending on which class they decide to take. What kind of people? Because that's what we're after. If a liberal arts education develops a certain type of person, and there at liberal arts, it's free person, right? The art of being free, right? Free man's education. What kind of education or what type of person is going to come out of the class that you're going to teach on apologetics and the class you're going to teach on family?
Well, the goal is, so with both apologetics and with family, is that you come out understanding better the beauty of God's plan, right? So with apologetics, we talk a lot about the beautiful, that a major aspect of a winning argument for the gospel, so to speak, is the beauty of it. Right. So if you spend some time talking about in apologetics, one of our discussion topics is rivalry, right? Where is when you're talking with somebody, there's always a fundamental rivalry somewhere that needs to be solved. There's a chaos and the thing holding the chaos back, right? And the most of the versions of the solution to that problem have to do with a god or some sort of human system supplying enough power to hold the chaos back, right? Whereas in the scriptures, Jesus dives into the chaos of death, swallows it all up into himself, pins it to the cross, takes it to the grave, and leaves it there, chains it up, right? And so when he comes back out saying, now the Prince of Peace is reigning. The Prince of Peace is reigning from his throne, and his peace and the spread of his government and his peace will have no end. It's a different kind of way of approaching it. Well, the goal is that you can then have the confidence in sharing the gospel to know I've actually got the most beautiful of all things here, right? The gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ is the most beautiful of all things. And the invitation is to the supper of the Lamb, the greatest of all moments, right? So I've got the most beautiful thing, and it's an invitation to the greatest thing. A loving relationship with God the Father through the Lord Jesus Christ. Why would that be something that you now are ashamed to share, right? And it's the same with family. You've got people coming after the traditional, quote unquote, the traditional family all the time, coming after Christianity as the thing that oppresses women, for example, right? You've got one of my favorite verses when I go onto a college campus to say, here's what I want to talk on, is the part where a husband can nullify the vow of his wife in the law, because it gets everybody immediately, the hackles go up. What is it that a woman that thinks she can't stand on her own 2 feet, she can't have her own vows? But the reality is, Adam had the ability, he had the right to nullify the vow that his wife made with death, and he didn't take it. Jesus does nullify the vow that his wife, the church, makes with death. Right? That's our salvation. Right? That's the good news is embedded into, quote unquote, traditional family values. Right?
My screen to do the thing, because it's like, yes, come on, that's my amen corner.
So as soon as as soon as you realize that the makeup, the metaphysical reality of the family, that the good news is embedded into it, right?
Mm.
Then you can live out the roles of husband and wife and father and mother and child, and you can live those out with a confidence and a joy that you're actually doing something that's beautiful and good, and not just true but ugly, which I think is the way we tend to present the roles. I mean, almost every time I've heard somebody speak on the roles of husband and wife, it's apologetically, I'm so sorry, but this is what the Bible says, so we got to just do it. Or they say, hey, it's really a debate about who has it worse. Do husbands have it worse, or do wives have it worse? And usually the preacher is a guy, so he always falls on the side that husbands have it worse. And I just hate that so much.
But that's
If
fighting against the two, right? That's an animosity
it is,
between the two, yeah.
it's setting up a fundamental rivalry, and it's basically, we just don't realize that we've fallen into the critical theory, and the one who's the most oppressed gets the power. But that's a whole nother thing, and we don't want to be communists, right? Instead, what we need is to see the beauty, the glory, and the goodness of the way God set up the family, and embrace it, enjoy it, and actually be able to lean into it wholeheartedly, and not half-heartedly.
All right. And both of these classes are available right now. How much room do you have left so you don't have a whole lot of room left inside of?
Yeah, we're getting close to full on the family one, but the apologetics one is about half full, so there's still some good room there.
I listen, I get people all the time who are, hey, can we, it's, I don't even think they're intending to, they're just looking for marriage counseling. They end up going for marriage counseling, or it just breaks out into a conversation on marriage counseling. Look, do the one on family. I love the apologetics one, Jason. I know it's going to be great. And I think to some people who've got the whole marriage and family thing worked out, it's like, I'm doing pretty good there. Jump on the apologetics one. That's great. But the one on family, to me, is probably the most important one, because the apologetics is built into the family. The apologetic is built into the family. When men in the culture and in the world see a man love his wife and raise his children in the fear and admonition of the Lord, and the work that she does in the home shines out, it shuts the mouths of pagans. It is an apologetic all by itself. And if we can get that kind of thing right as Christians in our home, it is men who have families to feed and protect will be the kind of men that will be great leaders in church and civil environments. And so I can't speak highly enough about men learning their duties and responsibilities as fathers and as husbands, and practicing these disciplines in the home before they get into these other offices. And so I can't tell people enough. FLFnetwork.com /university. Sign up for either one, but I'm always going to push the family class. They're going to start December 5th and December 6th. Somebody said, this is my favorite stream. Keep up the good fight, brothers. Hey, thank you, Liquid Cry. And then also, I so appreciate y'all's conversations. You know what? Thank you very much. We haven't had some in a long time. Knox Unplugged is available right now. You should go listen to that one. We did that recording today, talking about the priesthood of men and how we interact with other priests and lift them up, oblate them before the Lord. Offering of Uncles, a book that we've been working through on that. And just so everybody knows, I will not be doing Knox Unleashed this week, and at least into the new year. I have projects that I want to finish for everybody on the Pub app. I want to get you guys content out. And so for that purpose, I'm going to dedicate all the rest of my time for this month to getting that out. But I will be doing and continuing both Knox Unplugged on Mondays with Jason Farley, and then the good Bishop David Reese. We're going to be working through civic covenanting. I think, to me, so Knox Unplugged is where I learn things. Knox Unleashed is kind of where I organize things with the two. So that's kind of how I've been working through it. But don't forget, so we'll do that. David Reese is going to be this Friday talking about the officers of the church. Don't miss out on that. There's going to be great content. I'm going to save it all up. And one more thing before I head out of here. You guys, what you do on social media really does matter. If you like something, you have no idea the capital that you shared. When you hit the share button or the repost button, that stuff is like money in the bank. It's like coins, it's like making it rain on social media. So if you can hit the like button, it doesn't cost you anything. It's just so hard to move the thumb to the like. It's so hard. I know, I get it. Just go ahead and do it. It really is a help. It's how we are able to beat the algorithm. The comment section, you guys leaving comments, it's huge. Oh, Young Flav was in here. I see you, Young Flav. But anyway, it's so easy right now to be a user of content without being an appreciator of content. One of the ways that you show you appreciate the content is just by hitting the like button, is by hitting the repost button. And you then can generate a culture that pushes content like transgenderism and Dylan Mulvaney's of the world into a very small corner where nobody watches their content. So if you want to see better content, promote it. Hit the like button, hit the share button. It's amazing. We're about to leave and people are just running up in here all of a sudden. Listen, people, hit the like button. I know you're in here. This one just flooded likes. Well, good. Thank you. FLF network / university. Go there and sign up for these classes. Not a whole lot of room is left. And I would love for you guys to get this in. And then we got a bunch more stuff coming for Pub University. I can't even begin to tell you guys all the things we have going on. Poetry, literature. Jason, we're going to do what? Have we been able to talk to your wife and do one on Jane Austen yet? Like that would be, I just bought all 7 of her books.
Yep, she's preparing it and prepping it, and she'll be ready to go soon.
Yeah, so we got all kinds of things. And if there's any other things that you guys want some classes on, you can hit Jason up about that and see if he can't find a good teacher for you. So Jason is dean of the class, the dean of the university. We're just going to name it and claim it.
Yeah,
you guys
name
go
it
there.
And claim it.
Yep, sign up for it. And don't forget my wonderful, lovely sponsors, newharttreasures.com, where I get all my lovely mugs from. What cigars are we smoking? I just got into these Bottom Bettys. Are you familiar with these?
I'm a little ashamed. I've been smoking backwoods cigars from the the gas station this week.
Okay, you know what? That's you need to stop that right now.
I know. So you guys can send me cigars. Yeah.
Yeah.
Joyce S says a Jane Austen class. Yes,
you better believe it.
It's coming.
His wife is a specialist in this. So I used to really love Drew Estate's La Routins, or called Naturals. And now they've switched them up. I think they've changed them out and replaced them with Bottom Bettys. Really nice, kind of like so I consider those like the Black and Milds for adults, a grown man's Black and Mild, but it's an adult one. So I like those kind of cigars. Now that everybody's starting to come on here, I'm like, should I leave or should we continue going? It's so crazy. All right, Jason, last words.
I did get when I was at the FLF conference, a new friend that I met there brought me some new pipe tobacco that I have been enjoying a lot. It's very nutty and nice. It's my favorite. So, but in terms of the class, I hope you guys will sign up and show up. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And these things are the places where I've taught them before. That having a positive vision for what God is calling you to do and not having to live in reaction only, it is a life changer. It really is. So I'm hoping to be able to bring that into more homes.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm excited about with these classes is I get a chance to talk to you constantly and probably annoy you to no end, and to be able to have you teach a class and people to be able to enjoy the privilege that I have to be able to talk to you and they get to talk to you themselves. It'll be a blessing for a lot of people. And I think you said it best, being able to have not to be reactive, but to actually have an offense. Nobody knows what that's like.
Yep.
And what's crazy is like we sit on our offense and we don't even know we have one. Like the scriptures literally tell us that our kids are like arrows in the hands of a mighty warrior. And we're like, I wonder what that means.
Yeah.
You know, I wish we had something we could do, right? Like, but the whole beautiful promise of the gospel was coming through a woman. It was coming through childbirth, you know, like, and protecting the seed. Like, this is, and we have it right here in front of us.
And we've been a team that punts on first down, and we can't figure out why we keep losing.
The Tactics Conference in January. I see you, Paula. Paula D, appreciate you. Thank you for listening and putting a comment in there. You know, it's got all these people streaming, and a few people have liked it. Again, guys, we got to work better at this. I found myself doing this. There's a guy who was making content, and he's got thousands of views and millions of views on his content, 600,000-700,000. And I realized to myself how much I have appreciated his content and haven't liked it. I've laughed and I've shared it internally, but not on social media. And I realized that that I've just been a consumer and not an appreciator. And I left a comment on his video and said, hey, man, I just want to let you know, I'm sorry. Like, you actually spend your time and your energy to make me laugh and to bring me joy. And you do that to turn a profit. And and I know that you turn a profit because of me hitting the like button, me hitting the share button, and me commenting. And I've watched at least 15, 20 of your videos, and I haven't done that. And I said, I just want to let you know, bro, I'm sorry. Not going to do that anymore. I really appreciate what you're doing. Keep up the great work. And I hope everybody starts commenting, liking your videos. Because I was convicted because that's how people are making it. People literally are going around. This is a beautiful thing. I should have said this for Tech Tuesday. Why am I playing this music? People are going around on social media and for free cutting other people's lawns. Literally going around, cutting other people's lawns for free and recording themselves doing it. And then making more money off of cutting lawns than they make, making more money off cutting lawns for free and posting social media than they make cutting lawns in real life. All because people like to see something go from, this is dominion work, this priestly duty, right? Go from a horrible environment to an edged up. Now, have you seen these videos before?
Oh, I love these videos. This is amazing.
Love them. And then not to hit and that's what triggered it for me. Not to hit the like button or the share button means that I don't get to see them bless other people, right? That's when it hit it for me. It was like, I love to see them bless other people. And sometimes they get old folks and sometimes they're in the hood. Sometimes they're all over the place. And they say, hey, when's the last time somebody's cut this yard for you? Can I come in and cut it? And they're like, what, for free? Because I ain't got no money. It's like, no, we'll do it for free as long as you let us record and do it. And they let them do it. And the yard is beautified. And the community looks better and everybody's happy. Like, this house was abandoned and all that I have to do in order to get these guys to continue doing what they're doing is just hit a like button.
Right.
All I have to do is hit a share button. All I have to do is just post it on my own social media. And I have become an obese social media hog that has consumed everything for my own enjoyment and not been thankful to the people who are doing the work. And it hit me right then and there. It's like, we have to do better about liking content that is a blessing, liking content that is moving the ball down the field, that is glorifying God. When you see something that is giving glory to God, like that stuff, share that stuff. Not all of it's going to be perfect. And if you want more of it to exist, then you better start liking stuff, even the stuff that you don't completely 100,000% agree with. Find the good things that are godly, that are God honoring, and share it and like it and engage with it. And when you don't do those things, when you just consume it and you scroll by it real quick and there's no reaction to it, you're actually communicating to the algorithm that you don't want this kind of stuff to exist, right? You don't want this kind of content to be spreaded around. So the next time that it shows up in your timeline, they're going to push it down further and further because they want you on their social media platforms. Well, disciple the platform to give you the kind of content and give everybody else the kind of content that is God honoring, that is building one another up in love and in good works, right? With words, like, find those kind of things that are good, like them, share with them, engage with them. And when you do that, it's amazing how something so simple like that, just hitting the like button, can actually has a transformative effect on social media platforms. And we don't even think about things in that context at all. We just think, okay, yeah, I didn't like this, I didn't like that, I didn't like this. Or we find things to hate intentionally, and we need to stop doing that. All right. Just like, yeah, that's enough. All right. That's it for this Marvelous Monday. Every Monday, every day, you start to notice that God is undoing the work of the wicked, even though they're striving to try and get at God. He just sits up in heaven and laughs. And so we can take joy in that. All right, you guys, I'll see you Friday with David Reese. FLFnetwork.com/university. Sign up for one of these 2 classes with Mr. Farley. I think both of them will be a blessing to you. Don't miss out and hurry up because they're almost gone. Jason, thank you so much for joining me, brother. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. See you, man.
All right.